Okay, the first question you might have is, why are we sitting here in the dark? And the second might well be, why is this guy telling me I need another light timer? I've already got one. Well, let me explain. Chances are, if you're using a light timer at the moment, it's probably one of the ones that you plug into the plug socket. However, I find they come on very, very suddenly and can startle the fish. These light timers that I found though, you can set to turn on gradually by increments throughout the day and also dim by increments towards the end of the day. They are fantastic. They come in a nice wee box, nicely packaged. There's a wee note from Nicrew explaining how to contact them with any issues, and I do believe they tried to help. Your wee instruction manual, and then your light timer. You've got a spare attachment just in case your connections are a little bit different. But this is all it is. Understated, classy looking, and effective. As you can tell, they become part of the wiring of your LEDs. They sit between the power pack and the cable that goes to the light itself. Pretty much plug and play. They just slot in nice and easy, and it's not difficult to figure out where they go. They're not expensive either. I think these cost me $15.99 each online, but to me, they're worth every penny. If you are using the traditional timers that plug into the sockets, which I've used plenty over the years, I think they're great. I'm not knocking them, but they can be a bit bulky and a bit awkward. And depending what extension you're using, they can even block off sockets that you might want to use. Not only that, I have found with these analog ones here, sometimes you can knock the wee switches and throw your timings off. But with this, you haven't got any of those problems. It sits out the way of your sockets for one thing, and there's no wee switches that are easily accidentally pressed. The other thing with this kind of switch as well, timer rather, is it's basically on or off. You've got your on and your time switch there, but it comes on and it goes off. There's no middle ground. But like I said with these, you can set several points at several brightness levels through the day. The graph on the back of the box gives us an example of how we can set it up to make alterations up to 6 times over a 24-hour period. Each of those can activate immediately or be ramped up or down over a 15 or 30-minute period. We're going to head back to sitting in the dark in a minute, but before we do, I'd like to explain the buttons. You've got your power button, your set button, and your plus and minus. Nice and simple. It is so easy to operate this thing. What I've done then is set one up on a tank in the background, so it's going to come on and then brighten after a minute, dim after a further minute, and then go off, whilst I'll show you how to do the settings on another unit. So the first thing we need to do is set our time. Just a case of holding the set button down for 3 seconds. And we'll go for, in fact no, we won't go for the night time, we'll go for the morning. Oh, I've gone by it. We'll go for about 6:10. There you go, the lights came on automatically in the background there with the other timer. F is for function and relates to how long we want the lights to take to reach their desired, or the level that we set the lights at. Time's me out there for talking too long, hold on. We'll get back to where we were by holding down the set button, skipping the time select, and F2 is 15 minutes, F1, the lights come on immediately, and F3, they take half an hour to reach the desired level. So we'll go for F2. Hit set again, and it's going to ask us for our first activation point of the day, L1. We'll go for about 9:30 in the morning here. Like that, hit set, and it's going to ask us for our brightness. So early on, we'll go for 30%, right? Hit set to move it on to our second setting for the day. And we'll say lunchtime, we'll say 1:15-ish. That's when we want the lights to be on full power. So 1:15, hit set, and then hold the plus button until you get up to 100%. hit set again, it's going to move us on to L3. Now, remember we could have had 6 increments, so we could have done 9:30, 30%, 11:30, 60%, and 1:15 for full power, but I'm just going to do 4 for demonstration's sake. And we'll say at 8:10, we're going to set it down to 30% again. So we'll go a bit lower than that, 20%. It's the evening, everyone's settling down. Hit set. And the last one we're going to select is 10:30. We're saying that's when we want to be lights out. So 10:30, hit set, and then your minus button all the way down to 0. There we go. Since we're not wanting the 5th and 6th option set up, we'll just hit set to skip by them. And that's it. That's it set up. Could not be any easier. Obviously, you've got to make sure your light has a dimming function. One way to know that is if you've got a controller with it or buttons on the light that shows you can dim it. Well, that's a clear indication. But I used it on a couple of Nicrews. One of them didn't have any of that, and yet it dimmed still. And also, Aqueon Eco was the other light I tried it on, which worked fine. Didn't even know that dimmed. It was a budget light I bought online, but it worked all the same. So you need to know your light or look into the light that you've got. But there we go. I just think these things are great. Well worth the money. I'll need to admit the geek in me appreciates the gadgety kind of design of them. They are well built. The build quality is good. Feels solid. It doesn't feel like a flimsy piece of plastic. And when you press the buttons, there's some resistance there. I mean that as a good thing, as in when you press the buttons, it's somehow satisfying and feels like a quality item. You can override the timing settings by just turning it on and off with the power button as you wish. And your plus and minus is going to affect the brightness at that stage. If you have a fancy light that does all these kind of cool things, then obviously this is not for you. But if not, I think they're a nice, handy, easy way of your lights coming on and going off in a more natural way for your fish. So, with that said, I think these lights are about to go out. There we go.